Hi Virgo, welcome to your January 2020 Astrology 33 reading. Thank you to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. And for those of you interested in booking a personal reading with me, actually, for those of you who are watching this when I first post it, I actually won't be offering personal readings, but by the time January rolls around, I should be good to go with those. So once January rolls around, just check out the description of the video for any information you might need on that. As for what we have in front of us, we have a Celtic cross spread as always. You got some extra cards that came up there. Then we also have some oracle cards to take a look at once we get to the main spread, and also a mudra card. So let's get started. In the main situation position, we have the World card. So on the surface, this is a card that represents completion of cycles and successful completion at that. I also personally view this as a North Node card, so could be some tie to that. And right now you guys have the North Node in your 11th house of groups, friendships, hopes and wishes, so could be some completions going there. And obviously we will be having a full moon eclipse in that house, so could definitely be something regarding that. Also, this is a Saturnian energy too, and on the flip side of the North Node, right now we have Saturn with the South Node in Capricorn, so could be some connection with that axis for you guys in general, around love, maybe creativity versus friendship groups, so there could be something going on with that area of life for you guys. But what I'm seeing here more than anything, this just does at least point to the fact that you guys might have completed some cycle, or rather significant one, and successfully so, or at least if not already, you will this month. And there might be one more eclipse on the Cancer Capricorn axis when Cancer season rolls around, but for the most part, we're getting to the end of the eclipses happening in those two signs. Then they'll be moving on to Gemini and Sagittarius. So wouldn't surprise me if for some of you this is going to represent a rather big completion for some of you. In the Challenger obstacle position, we have the Four of Cups. So this is actually a Cancer card. So once again, we're looking at that 11th house. And this represents the last 10 degrees of Cancer. But given that this represents, as I was saying, groups, friendships, hopes, wishes. So maybe for some of you, given that this is coming up in a Challenger obstacle position, maybe some of you are actually finding that maybe you're outgrowing the groups that you're affiliated with, and maybe you're just not getting a sense of fulfillment around interacting with them anymore. And it doesn't have to necessarily be groups either. It could be as simple as just one friendship. Maybe you realized, okay, well, and maybe you've been friends with this person for a long time, maybe even 21 years, right? Given that the world is the number 21. So this could have been a lifelong friend of yours. And maybe you're coming to the realization that, okay, yeah, well, the comfort and familiarity of it all is fine, but maybe you're realizing that you might have grown apart from this person or this group of people, and realizing that it's just not really as fulfilling of a connection for you anymore. And maybe, again, that full moon eclipse might bring that to the surface a bit more heavier than usual, so maybe this is something that's been in your awareness for a while, but you just haven't really, it hasn't been at the forefront, and this just might really bring it out a bit more than usual. Trying to think what else could be going on here. Well, and then also, given that Cancer is the natural ruler of the 4th house, you guys did have Jupiter moving through your 4th house, and it recently was in these degrees. It recently moved on to Capricorn. So maybe this is even pointing to that, saying that now, you integrated what you were supposed to learn there. Maybe you're just looking around viewpoints that you might have had from your early upbringing, deciding what worked and what didn't for you, right, as that transit went along, and maybe that's what the completion is pointing to as well. In the foundation position, we have the Knight of Cups, the Knight of Swords, and the Ten of Pentacles. So interesting mixture of energies here, all mutable actually, which is interesting. But this is actually the court card of Pisces. This is the court card of Gemini, and then this actually represents the last 10 degrees of Virgo. So it's an interesting mixture there. I'm trying to think of what could be going on with these. Given that they're in the foundation, there is some significance there. So, and if we look at the contrast of the energies, right? I mean, they're coming at each other from different directions, for one. So it could represent the merger. Now, Knight of Cups, that's Pisces, your seventh house of relationships and partnerships. This is Gemini, your 10th house of career and social status. And then this is, again, this is a Virgo card, but can represent familial connections, financial success, just a sense of completion and security. So for some of you, this could just be maybe you're trying to find that balance between, having a committed relationship and also having your career, right? And maybe your career might be picking up speed right now as well. You did have a full moon in that house recently, and it was actually not a major square, but it was somewhat squared by Neptune in the sign of Pisces too. So that might have really been what brought it to the forefront for you there, as far as, you might have been really trying to evaluate, okay, well, what's the best way I could fit a romantic relationship into my life, still be able to get that movement and mobility that I want in my career, and yet still have that security and happiness, right? That strong foundation, reliable foundation. So that could have been what's been going on in your mind there, and maybe that's what you've been reevaluating here as well. So that could be what's at play. For others of you, it could just be as simple as saying that, maybe there's a love offer to be made, right? Maybe you're thinking of extending that offer to someone or they to you. And it looks like it'd be, even though we're looking at night energies here, given that it's 10 of Pentacles energy, it looks like the intent of whoever would be making the offer would be for it to be a fairly serious committed relationship, given that we do have the 10 of Pentacles there. So that could be what's at play. But again, a lot of mutable energy too. So even though we do see two knights there, you still might not quite be ready to act on it. You could just really be on the fence, just like looking at things from different angles and not quite sure which direction to go in just yet. In the past position, we have Temperance, the Eight of Cups, and the Four of Wands. So this is the major arcana card for Sagittarius. This is another Pisces energy here. This is the first 10 degrees of Pisces, and then this is an Aries energy here, last 10 degrees of Aries. Interesting mixture of cards, but what's coming to my mind first, we were just talking about the fact that you guys did have Jupiter moving through Sagittarius recently, which is your 4th house. So what I'm thinking about there is, maybe you guys are really just reevaluating what beliefs you might have had from your early childhood, just growing up around your family, and maybe trying to see what worked for you and what didn't, right? With that Temperance energy, weighing the pros and cons, like, okay, well, this is how I was raised. Do I still believe that to be the case? Yes or no, right? And then this could say, maybe left some things behind, realizing that, okay, this was how I was brought up, but it's not necessarily what works for me, right? And in the process of doing so, it might have actually brought some happiness into your life, because you're like, all right, well, now I could really take more ownership of my life. And for some of you, it could even be pointing to maybe some ways, maybe some beliefs around romantic relationships that might have been holding you back in some way, shape, or form too. Trying to see if anything else comes to mind with this mixture of cards. And I mean, we could always look at it at a more mundane level as well and say maybe there was a Sagittarius that you were dealing with that you had to walk away from, and maybe you were even in a committed relationship with them, or maybe you at least were hoping for a committed relationship from this person, and maybe you finally decided to leave that behind for whatever reason. Maybe you realized, okay, well, this just isn't going to happen. Could be another way that's playing out. In the present position, we have the Hierophant. So this is actually the major arcana card for Taurus, and there's going to be some activity there. I think Uranus will be going direct in January, right around the time of that full moon eclipse that'll be happening in Cancer. And as we speak, actually, as I'm recording this in mid-December, Jupiter is actually trining Uranus. So Jupiter recently moved to Capricorn, as I said, and it's actually trining Uranus. So you just might be feeling more of that energy right now. So some of you might be considering going back to school. Some of you might already be enrolled in school, or maybe just learning things, maybe even changing your faith. Maybe that was part of what you were reviewing with that transit through your fourth house. Maybe your parents raised you a certain with a certain religion, for example. Maybe now you're looking at that like, yeah, you know what? I don't know if that really works for me, right? I mean, that's how it works for a lot of people. A lot of people are just born into religion, basically. And as you get older, especially having Uranus in your ninth house, you might have really been looking at that again and saying, wait a minute, does this actually work for me? Or is it just something I just adopted from my parents, right? So that could be what's at play for some of you. This could just represent, again, your desire for stability that we were talking about there with the Ten of Pentacles and trying to figure out the best way to go about that. So it can even point to maybe some of you entering into committed relationships. Trying to see if anything else comes to mind there. And for some of you, this can be related to finances as well, given that this is the natural ruler of the second house. So could be something to do with finances there. I mean, we did see the Ten of Pentacles in the foundation, right? And even though it is a Virgo card, could just point to ways that you might be trying to build up your finances. So given that this is 7th and 10th house, maybe it's even just saying you're trying to infuse some more creativity, some more passion into your work life to build your stability. Maybe that's where the shift of direction could be taking place for some of you. In the near future position, we have the Four of Pentacles. So this is a Capricorn energy and represents the last 10 degrees of Capricorn, which is actually where Saturn and Pluto will be conjunct in January. So there's definitely some significance with that. We could see why this could come to the forefront for you. And given that it's your 5th house, you could be looking at some ways where maybe there could be some issues around control and even restricting yourself in that area of life. So, for example, maybe you withhold in romantic relationships, and maybe you're becoming aware of that, and maybe you even realize that that's something that you learned in the early stages growing up, and you're realizing, oh, okay, maybe this isn't the best thing for me, right? Or for others of you, this could just be pointing to even creativity, right? Maybe you have a lot of creative ideas that might actually be very fruitful for you financially, but maybe for whatever reason you've just been holding back on them, right? Maybe taking on that Virgo energy a bit too much, where you just want it to be perfect, right? So you have these ideas that could actually lead to some kind of financial abundance for you, but you're just thinking and thinking and thinking, oh, I want it just right. Could be perfectionism at play there in that regard. And with Jupiter moving into that house now, it's going to amplify those energies. So on the one hand, it could actually give you that nudge to actually put yourself out there in those areas. But, at the same time, if you have been handling those areas in a less than ideal way, it's also going to exacerbate that to bring it to your attention, essentially, if that makes sense. All right. In the position of your energy toward the situation, we have the Empress. So this is actually a major arcana card that sometimes points to Taurus, so we do see more potential Taurus energy there, but given it is Venusian, it could also point to Libra or just Venusian energy in general. This tends to be an energy of more receptivity, letting things come to you. On the more positive side, it can be good to be in that type of vibe from time to time. So, and given that, like I said, even though this can either be earth or air energy, Venusian energy is usually a good thing. I'm trying to think. I think Venus may be entering into your opposite sign in January too. Actually, I'm pretty sure it does. Give me a second. Let me look. Yeah, right around the middle of the month. So maybe that shifts your energy again to possibly thinking about romantic relationships when you have Venus moving through your opposite sign. But if that's the case, even though I'm seeing all that night energy in the foundation there, this leads me to believe it might be a little more likely that you might be hoping for offers to come to you rather than you actually being the one to extend those offers. But of course, it could play out the other way for some of you. And, maybe this is just comfort in who you are too. Maybe again with all these things you have reevaluated, right? Like I said, groups, maybe even your early upbringing, looking at those views again, seeing do they work for you, do they not work for you. Maybe this is just getting you more comfortable in your own skin, feeling like, okay, now I feel like I'm authentically me. I'm not taking on anyone else's stuff. This is truly me, basically. All right, in the environment position, we have the Three of Swords and the Six of Swords. So this is actually a Libra energy, middle 10 degrees of Libra, and this is the middle 10 degrees of Aquarius. So for you guys, there's the second house and sixth house connection there. So, if we just want to look at this in a rather mundane way, this could just be saying that maybe you had some disappointments around finances, and maybe it's at the job you're in, and maybe as a result of that, maybe you decide to move on, right? Maybe they were promising you a raise. Oh yeah, once we get to 2020, we're going to totally give you a raise, right? Maybe that raise never comes around. You're like, okay, well now I feel like I can't trust them. They gave me their word that this was what was going to happen. And you might decide to leave that workplace. That's how it could play out for some of you. And then that could explain what that Four of Pentacles is there too, if we're looking at this from a more mundane angle, which is to say that, all right, well now you realize, okay, well if I'm going to commit to leaving this job behind, now I'm going to have to budget a little bit more until I get a new, secure a new job, basically. Another way this could be playing out, obviously this could just be saying that maybe there was an actual heartbreak that you guys went through. I'm not really seeing indicators of that here, quite frankly, but obviously it is a possibility given that it did pop up here. Or maybe the person you're dealing with has gone through this. But with the Six of Swords energy there, that's a pretty good energy to have paired with this Three of Swords, which is to say that you're moving past that. You're putting it behind you and moving forward. And interestingly enough, to me, I view both of these cards as a connection between Venus and Uranus. So, well, actually, no, not really. This to me is more of just strictly Uranus energy, but this definitely for me is like a transit of Uranus to your Venus. So, which could lead to that desire for independence. So, maybe you might have broken off a relationship or someone might have broken it off with you. And maybe now there's the realization that for one, all right, maybe that wasn't the right move, or at the very least they're integrating or you're integrating, all right, well, it's time for me to move past that, right? So that could be what's at play there. I'm trying to think if anything else comes to mind, but I think that about covers it. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Knight of Pentacles. So now we have a third mutable knight on the table, which is interesting, but this is just in hopes or fears position. So that could be it as well. Maybe you might feel in some ways that you might be being pulled in two different directions, right? Again, going back to what I was saying as far as these knights are moving in opposite directions. And maybe this is just saying, and this would again be another indicator of what I was saying with that desire for stability. With this in the hopes position, maybe you're just hoping for things to settle down. Maybe you really have, even if mostly just in your mind. Maybe you have been going through a lot of things and really reevaluating areas of your life, and you're just like, all right, I'm ready for things to calm down now, right? Maybe that's what that Empress energy is about too. Like, all right, processed a lot, went through a lot, I'm ready to settle down, So that could be what's at play there. For those of you, like I said, if maybe this is a situation where, as I was saying, this could be you were hoping from your current employer to get whatever raise or maybe a year-end bonus that they were promising. Maybe they never came through with it. And as an extension of that, for those of you who did decide to leave the job because of that, this could just be you hoping, obviously, to receive a new offer. This could just represent it slow going too, though, with the Knight of Pentacles being the slowest moving knight. So while this isn't a hopes or fears position, that might end up being what the situation is. You might still receive word that you're going to get that raise or that bonus, but it might just be delayed. And again, obviously there could be some disappointment with that, right? But let's say on a more optimistic side, maybe it is that it's just delayed and they're not going to give it to you. But maybe they at least give you a date, right? So maybe even during this time of Aquarius, for example, maybe they say to you, maybe, oh yeah, January 1st, we're going to give you this raise, right? But maybe now you find out, given that this represents the middle 10 degrees of Aquarius, maybe you find out now it's really going to have to wait till February, so maybe there's some heartbreak and disappointment around that. But at the same time, you're like, okay, at least I know that they're going to come through. It's going to take a little longer than I expected, right? All right, and in the outcome position, we have the Page of Wands. So to me, this represents a shift in energy. Maybe this is for some of you around travel too. Maybe the world is just that. Maybe it's saying that for some of you, it's the environment you're in where you're like, I need to change things up. Like I said, maybe you realize, oh, it's not necessarily the friendships or the groups I'm in. It's just, you realize I just need to move around and see more, right? Maybe you just want to get out, explore more. The Page of Wands energy does show that you'd be more inclined to actually take action on that, if that's the case. Another way this could be playing out could just be saying that all of the things you've been thinking of, like I was saying, we see that Empress energy, we see that Four of Pentacles energy, the Hierophant as well. None of those are really fast-moving, take action type vibes. Maybe this is saying that as we do get to the end of the month, you're more apt to actually take action. So that could be what's at play there. Trying to think if anything else comes to mind with this. And this could be someone else you're dealing with as well. Someone who is a bit more active, maybe likes to travel, move around a lot. Maybe they could be coming into your life. That's a possibility. All right, moving on to your oracle cards. First, we have Between Worlds. So on the surface, I could see where that could tie into what we were talking about there. And again, we have a reference to worlds and the world card. So like I said, with that completion, right, you end one cycle, start another. So that could be what this is referring to as well. But there's the artwork, and the number is 3. So we already see that Empress connection there too. But let's see what the actual message says. Maybe that's what that Empress energy is too. If you guys did leave one job behind and you're going to be entering another, maybe this Empress is just saying you're taking on a bit of a chill vibe for a bit. Like, all right, left this behind. Let me just take a minute before I move forward, right, with that Page of Wands energy. So maybe even that was it, right? You left a job behind. You found out with that Six of Swords, that could be what it's pointing to as well, saying that, okay, you find out your new job starts February 1st. So, all right, now you have to wait. You have a month to just relax, maybe pinch pennies during that time, like I said, because, okay, I'm not going to be getting a check for a month and a half. So I'm going to pinch pennies for a bit, but knowing that, all right, once February rolls around, I'll be ready to roll, right? It says transitions, not being quite out of one situation and fully engaged in another, temporary blindness, no man's land. The oracle's message. Between the worlds is where you must let go of the tendency to make assumptions. This is a time when you are unable to see what is ahead. Cultivate curiosity and trust the process of change and growth. You are done learning the lessons of recent experiences. In this place between what was and what will be is a state of making and unmaking and making again. What is essential now is to admit not knowing. There is great freedom and power to be unleashed. A mystery that is not yours to understand weaves the web of life within a divine matrix of consciousness greater than your own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires, and decisions. The seeds that were planted in the past begin to take root, but what surfaces will probably not be what you expect. When you are between the worlds, you are invited to see with the curious eyes of a child glimpsing a rainbow for the first time. Do so and you will not be disappointed. So definitely an interesting message there, and I can see where that ties into the main spread. And also, I think I might have forgot to mention to you guys, we have the High Priestess at the bottom of the deck too. So maybe this could just be saying that for the most part, you guys have just been trying to navigate through all of this intuitively, So that could be what's at play there too. Relationship message says this is a time to explore the new energy between you and another. It is not a moment for certainty, but rather for discovery and curiosity. You don't yet know if this will last forever, so allow yourself to explore who you are and what is reflected back to you. This relationship is meant to educate you about yourself. What do you need? What do you like or dislike? What values are important to you? You are in a critical phase of your relationship that is not to be dismissed or hurried. So, pretty good message there, too. And I did feel that this evaluation here that I was talking about seemed like it was more around a family or a group. But maybe this even was just a one-to-one relationship where you have been evaluating, okay, well, maybe in the past this was how I viewed love, maybe now I view it this way, right? So you start reevaluating what views work for you, what don't, right? So maybe that's what that play there too. The prosperity message says, in your work, sometimes you try things that have worked for others, hoping that you too will be successful. When this symbol appears, it reminds you that sometimes the path to your prosperity is a gamble. Win or lose, you can learn much from what comes of your wager. It's a good time to bet on your skills and talents in new and different arenas. Remain curious, and with the right combination of timing and luck, you will stumble upon something golden that will be unlike anything you've known before. So definitely an interesting message there. We did discuss finances to a certain extent, and that makes me think of what I was saying with that Four of Pentacles in the near future. Like I was saying, maybe these are a bunch of creative ideas you've had, and maybe you've been holding back on them for whatever reason. And now maybe with Jupiter coming in there, at the very least, it's going to bring that to your awareness and kind of nudge you towards putting yourself out there in some way, shape, or form. So hopefully all that resonated with you guys. All right. Next, we actually got two cards from this Oracle deck, which is the Spirit Animal Oracle. The first one we got is Eagle Spirit. It says, Spirit has your back. There's the artwork, and the number is 23. Okay, it says, think of the eagles flying high above the other birds, soaring on the wind. Eagle Spirit has appeared to ask whether you're willing to soar to new heights, even if that means solitude for a short while. Truly, all the wisdom of the world is available to you. When storms flash across the sky, it is Eagle Spirit that raises you above it all, helping you conquer fear and overcome adversity, reminding you that Spirit has your back and wants you to experience life at its fullest. At this moment, you are meant to know that you have the highest of wisdom and courage within, gifted to you by Spirit and all the angels. Boldly build your nest in a lofty space and know that now you can fly effortlessly, proudly embodying Eagle Spirit in all her glory and grace, claiming what is truly yours in divine timing. So interesting message there, and that made me think of what I was saying here as far as, maybe there's a group or, maybe even just one single friendship that you realize you've outgrown, but maybe out of the comfort you've stuck around, because with this Four of Cups energy, that always makes me think of someone who what's being offered to them they're not happy with, but at the same time they're not taking any action to change it, right? They're just sitting there with their arms crossed. They're not getting up to go after what they do want. They're not communicating that it's not what they want, right? They're just sitting there. So that could be what's at play there, where you might have found yourself getting a bit too comfortable in a certain area, maybe a bit stagnant, and maybe this is saying, in order for you to reach that next level, you might have to leave some things and some people behind in order to do so. And obviously, with this coming up in the challenge, that could be difficult for some of you, right? All right, and then next we have Lizard Spirit. It says, if we could get it to focus. There we go. It says, dream the world into being. There's the artwork, and the number is 38. Okay, it says, when was the last time you basked in the sun and allowed yourself to daydream, to imagine what might be and who you might become? Lizard Spirit appears when you are called to let your imagination flow and dream something new. Inspiration is available to you now if you are willing to slow down and let your eyes close a little, allowing ideas to dance in your head. What might come into being if you were to pursue your dream? How might you grow and expand if you allowed yourself to dare to believe in the impossible, making it possible first in your dreaming mind and then in the world as you co-create with spirit? Give in to the power of imagination, and soon your dream will become clearer. The steps will reveal themselves, and what was ephemeral will begin to coalesce into form. Dream it and be it. Spirit asks you to dare to dream big. So that'd be a pretty supportive message there. And like I said, if there are some things that we were talking about with that Four of Pentacles in the near future that you've been holding back on, maybe this is nudging you in that direction too, to say, maybe it is time to put it out there. But hopefully you guys got something from that. All right, and then lastly, we have a mudra card. So the mudra you guys got for this month is the Bhramara mudra. There it is there. The keyword for it is harmony. And let me see if I can get it to focus. There we go. Alright, so I'll leave this up for a bit. If you guys want to pause it or take a screenshot, you can. But it says, improves the health of the lungs and large intestine, balances the immune system, particularly in cases of immune overreaction, reduces allergic reactions to food and pollen, soothes cough and irritated lungs. So that sounds like something you think would be beneficial for you guys. I will leave the name of the mudra in the description of the video as well. We'll wrap up there. Happy New Year, guys. I'll see you all next month. Bye.